It's Shaves, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest. We're going over the best and the not-so-best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 9th of October to the 16th of October. Now for the videos that I thought were decent. Pretty good. And this first one's from Flipped on Yonder, Zen Huxtable. If I still call you that, I like that name. What I learned from making a 100-chapter comic. Wow. So, yeah, I have yet to read it. I'm looking forward to, but it was just this video for Digest that I checked out, of what his takeaways now that he's finished that. And I think it just makes sense with like this is why he hasn't been releasing as many animations or other small comic related things. We've sort of been hearing from him with various small videos and stuff, which is always lovely because he doesn't really have a social media otherwise. It's nice. It's very nice. But yeah, like it's just like his confidence has improved, and honestly, I could tell just from the speed drawing that this video is the constructed around is like the visuals is just him speed drawing. I can tell that there isn't as many redos of like like it's very easy, I imagine, on a digital surface to draw a line and then quickly delete it and draw it again, just to like what line looks good, and being more picky. But if you're making 100 chapters and releasing it kind of regularly, and it's the same characters and the same color palettes, and if you're drawing the same character so often, in the nature of a comic like this, you just get more confidence and like you just like, yeah, it's fine. And I really liked the line that he said where he's like, I finally got past that stage where I'm actually proud of the work that I made a year ago. Like this like awkwardness of just like cringing at your past work. And then he's like, no, actually that kicked a lot of ass. I like to think I'm in that position for sure. I think I definitely have more regrets. It's not like I cringe at the work. It's more of just like, I have more of a vivid memory of the compromises or the things that I had to do to make it what it looks like, and it's like I could have gone like this way or that way, and I keep thinking, well, it's because I didn't give a shit or something like that. I did. It was just more of economic and for my own sanity. Yeah, so but that's really great, and like it felt more of an update video. It wasn't as much of like his takeaways about storytelling, analyzing it's not like a lot of behind the scenes of making the comic, which I believe it sounds like it's complete narrative. But it's not like he's being like, yeah, and like at this point in the story, I was actually wondering whether what should I go this way or that way with the story or anything like that. It wasn't as much of the meat of that or whatever, or he didn't even show much of like drawing improvement of like what it looks like chapter 1 versus chapter 100 or whatever, and maybe some evolution, like kind of like an Alex Enterprises style of like the evolution of this comic or whatever. It's just more of like an afterword. This is more like this feels a lot more like what you read at the back of a book. That's just like their thoughts is like, yeah, this like a little mini reflection and not necessarily a full analysis. Obviously I'm not looking for a full analysis, but yeah, I don't know. I just I appreciated the rumination, and happy to see improvement with your confidence, and your passion is still there, and realizing things about yourself as an artist is like, no, I just do have to keep making. And I feel that way too. I think that also, you know what, the discussion about at the end of the day, this is a hobby. I never want to make it a job. I'm not looking to make this my living or anything like that. And then it is sort of that balance of like, I need to make this stuff to be creatively satisfied, but it does not make me money, and it's interesting. It feels like treating the art as its own necessity, as its own resource. Like it's a task that at least a creative person like myself, I agree with this, where it's like, I do think I'd feel empty if I was just working on work. If I was just doing things from either of my jobs and I wasn't making digest and I wasn't streaming and I wasn't I had a main channel video or an AMV cooking or even have an idea for it, that I would feel pretty dead. I don't know where maybe I'd feel content in some way, but I fear that. I do fear that. But yeah, that's it was great. Really liked it. Yeah. Hiding in Public had a video, very short, which I liked. Just saying, I enjoyed the short video. Not to roast you on the long stuff or whatever, and obviously I'm not fucking one to talk. But I like when it's short sometimes because it feels you. I can see the timeline. It feels like I'm not going to get lost in like a lot of big major points or anything existential. I really like that this was just a very basic question of how much meat did Denji eat, and sort of just like a little rabbit hole that he went down. And obviously, it's mortifying. Sure, I get it. I feel like you were a little too heavy-handed on the. Oh, I don't want this to come up as weird. Like it's in the manga. You didn't write it. He eats a person like that and cooks them into all these meals. You know, it's fiction, and I know you know that. But it's more like I don't know. It's an interesting question, and it's not like I don't know. It doesn't feel out of the boundary in the especially the context of Chainsaw Man, right? I feel like another character in this universe or Fujimoto might be interested in like you know how much physical meat it was, like how long did it take him to eat this, which I also appreciated that you calculated with like taking it in a realistic sense of like oh if he actually had that much food, in order to not fucking kill himself he can't just comically like Luffy or something like inhale everything. It would take him realistically this many days. That was fun. It was feel like almost a little game theory-esque, right? Where you're showing the maths on screen and talking about the crunching and the mathematics behind it or whatever. Not like being educative like game theory really, but it is sort of like positing it does feel like a game theory, like a film theory video or food theory maybe. And I don't know how complimentary or insulting that is. I didn't feel that when watching it because obviously you don't have Matt Pat's humor, which is a good thing. That's okay. I like that it wasn't super goofy, like trying to make a bunch of riffs or whatever. The editing wasn't obnoxious. Although I will say I could tell that the visuals really was just like I need some nice chainsaw visuals on screen, and it didn't feel like a ton. It feel like a lot of B-roll footage, maybe from one of your previous Chainsaw Man videos, which are actually kind of have the rigor and effort put in that way. And I wasn't expecting something like, especially for something kind of small and something to just kind of put out. And that's all fair and good. But what I would say, that there was for the sake of clarity or visual, it was like you have the 2-page spread towards the end, and then you're giving the calculation, and you have the text just like really big on the screen, and then having to scroll it up and everything like that. That felt very rushed and could have been aesthetic. I don't usually like point out being like, oh, this could have looked better. That's like I don't think I've almost ever said that in AniTube Digest, where I'm just like you could choose nicer font or size the text in a way that like it's gonna fit all on one page or whatever. I'm usually not one to be stickler for that because several videos are at different skill levels or whatever, or some it's not even control, whatever. And I get also it's probably just the putting the video out. I get like in terms of like, as I know you're working on the Steven Universe one a lot more intensely and everything. And so you do have to kind of meet a video where it's at. You can't be expecting a fucking masterpiece with every upload or whatever. And I'm not saying like there's no master. I'm not trying to. I don't know. Maybe I am. But yeah, no. I felt like could you at least blur the background a little as the text? All of the 2-page spread plus the text was just like, yeah. And again, I know it, whatever, but yeah, it's just something that stuck out to me that I'm like, Again, it's a silly idea. But I mean, I like that he went for it was intriguing, and certainly cursed or whatever. But yeah, I liked it. Welcome back, TazerLad, the best new best jump manga nobody's talking about. And look, I mean, it it's on the thumb. All right, you're going for what's on the, they're gonna talk about Kanebanashi, and I'm great. That's great. And but I was just the one thing I was like, I have to make sure I say this. I was just the way the intro, it makes sense the first couple of seconds. You're talking about One Piece and uh Evangelion. And that's the hook, the first 5-10 seconds or whatever for a YouTube video to get people to kind of watch a little further and not click off or whatever, have a little intrigue, a little closed loop, so that you can kind of lead in of like, what did they say about Akane Banashi? um maybe I'm a little more astute viewer or something like that, but like, you didn't have to have the whole like, maybe it was a fantasy manga that they recommended, maybe it was a sci-fi. Do you know what they recommended? This manga. And I was just like, yeah, I clicked on the Akane Banashi video, knowing that it was Akane Banashi. I mean, I knew that they had recommended it as well, but more than that, it was just, as a viewer, I clicked on the thumbnail knowing what the manga you're talking about is. I know I'm trying to, maybe this comes out a little condescending or actually or something. I'm sorry, but it's just go. It's kind of, yeah, I don't know. I think that's a great point to start out with, but you didn't need like a 30-second, 45-second, however long that ended up being. It was a little formalistic. I think YouTube viewers, maybe they're not, maybe they're stupid. Maybe that's true. I just think they were a little more savvy of just like, this is it. Yeah, I don't know. A small point. I loved the manga editing you're doing here, very elaborate. Not like so much to the point of like lines in motion or something with moving the characters or something, but it didn't need that. I don't think it, especially, I think it would have kind of betrayed what the points that you were making about this manga being so compelling despite not having movement, despite not having sound. That it's impressive that they can still find ways of articulating this medium of Rakugo through facial expressions, through thought bubbles, and through text, and through paneling. I really liked the example you gave with the 4 panels, 5 panels, 6 panels, 7 panels to show that her pace is increasing. Excellent. And I really liked that it was the whole page. You still, it didn't feel like you needed to have like the whole static thing, but you still went the extra mile of like, the way it's presented, like it's, yeah, the way it kind of animates almost with like panel and out. I sometimes have dodgy, I don't know which YouTube video I talked about this with, but I've realized with manga that there's a bit of a dodginess when it comes to this sort of intense manga editing, with manipulating the panels and shifting things around, making it more compelling as a 16:9 video, but you might be portraying the initial presentation of the manga itself, because the manga, they create it in mind with the page. Like, you're opening the book and you're gonna see 2 pages, you're gonna see the whole thing. And it's like, especially like Junji Ito, right, where you're flipping the page, the next, they often put kind of the apex, or like kind of a crescendo of the next scene at the bottom, at the corner of this page, so that when you turn, you're like, what's gonna happen next, right? Allowing the viewer to keep reading. So like, I've been realizing more and more that the structure of a manga, in terms of like, you see 2 pages at a time, you don't just see one and keep scrolling like most manga is displayed online. And yeah, and there's a physicality, not like a tangible, the paper, not like that, but like actual seeing the 2 pages and the physical action of flipping. Like, you see, like, going from here, right? Like, they're coming into the ring, and you flip a page, full page of like, whoa, there, and it's creating that sort of cinema, while in a comic paper sequential art medium. And I'm not to say that like you were betraying that, or any. I'm not criticizing the video for doing this. I think if anything, I actually think a lot of the time you were showing the full 2-page spread, or the full pages, without the other end of the spectrum, kind of a little more lazier approach. And I'm guilty of doing this too. Like, it is what it is. But like, because they're paper, like their images like this in a widescreen. If you just have it like that, you can't really see a whole lot. So that you expand it and scroll the page up. Classic, like kind of old school kind of editing in that way. But I think this is a great media middle ground. I think your editing is very clean, robust, does what it needs to do. Not like workmanlike or anything. It's still kind of aesthetically pleasing. I like that cross to the little ink splotting. That there's a transition into something behind that, and you kind of have that linger for a little while, bringing some more pages in. That was really nice. Yeah, the craft is really great. You still got it. It's just, uh, another thing I would have said about this that it was making me think about. I really liked your focus on the challenge of putting Rakugo in with this other thing, and I liked that you actually considered the other two, the author and artist combo here. You considered their other work, even the one that isn't translated in English. You didn't obviously you gave kind of a limited, like, I don't understand it, but here's some of it is something, because it's better than what, like, a lot of, I'm making a generalization obviously, but it does obviously feel that, like, a lot of anime YouTubers or manga tubers or whatever, if it's not translated, it doesn't exist, right? They don't want to engage with something that they can't read, because they're hopeful, like, I don't want to, because you're not getting the full thing. It's like it's missing something, it's like you may as well block out, it may as well not have any dialogue at all for some people, obviously. And I mean, that's fair, completely fair. I don't pretend to know it either, but I like that you were showing a willingness to engage with some of it, just to get an understanding of what these author artist combo like to focus on, and what they're good at, and how they might have refined it for Akane Banashi. Is like, oh, their last thing was this stand-up comedy thing, which is similarly all about facial expression, or a lot of it is about facial expressions. It's like, makes sense we brought it here. I think what it could have used, what this could have potentially, even just a brief, like, again, similar to how briefly you're talking about these, you're dabbling in it, you're kind of just like touching it. Yeah, I don't know the proper word for it. I kept thinking, and when you're talking about Rakugo, you preface at the beginning that there's only a handful of Rakugo manga, but that means that there is a handful of Rakugo manga. And as a Shogun Roku Rakugo Shinju fan, of course, who isn't into these days, at least in our circle, I get it's still kind of niche. For those of us, what I'm constantly thinking is like, that makes me wonder how that manga might have, and that one's definitely translated. I'm pretty sure Yen Press or 7C, somebody localized that one. I do have a volume of that, actually. One sec. Yeah, I got this at Kinokuniya. I think that's, yeah, the New York manga that they actually sell raw manga in New York. I got this because I love Rakugo Shinju, right? And obviously Yen Press had already announced their licensing of it at the time, but I really wanted to get also it has like that strip of just like the announcement of the anime and everything like that. Yeah, and I love the shit out of this fucking manga. And obviously, I don't know exactly how much more Rakugo Akane Banashi shows in contrast to Shogun Roku. This one obviously probably has a lot more drama. Not to say that Akane Banashi doesn't have drama, but when you were describing it as a battle shonen, it does make it sound like it is focusing on a lot of people's different practices and having more of a focus and intense interest in the subject matter, which is great. That's kind of how battle shonen should go, right? It is sort of taking that subject, whatever that is, if it's Rakugo, if it's boxing, if it's pirates, ninjas, whatever, and you're gamifying it. This is the battle shonen genre definition that I've created for myself, at least, and I want to make a video about it at some point. But you're taking the subject, and it can literally be anything, real life thing or fantasy, whatever, and you're giving it structure. You're giving, like, this whole thing about getting kicked out of the school and the prelim. I was only seeing a little, you don't really dive too much in the story, but what you were showing of just like people showing up to one of these performances, oh, we don't have to be here for the prelims. Oh, what's the prelims? Oh, this is the, it's not like an act. I don't know if it's an actual tournament. I don't know. That'd be kind of crazy. That'd be very shonen. I'm not saying that they, oh, it must have a tournament thing, but an exam, Hunter or not, that it is a kind of structure. It is a school or when I say school, I'm not just meaning, oh, high school or any, I mean like Hokuto no Ken, right? You have the North Star and you have the South Star, and there's the South Star have 6 generals, and they each have the structure. Even in a lawless wasteland like in Fist of the North Star, you still have systems and rules and customs and different dynamics and different niches and strategies, like you were describing with the different characters doing Rakugo, performing it in different ways. Like this one really works the crowd. This one is focused on theatrics. This one's about the detail and research. That's great. That is Battle Shonen. Fuck yeah. Yeah. So anyway, where were they going? Yeah. So I mean, it seems that it focuses more on the Rakugo itself and the performance of it, rather than just like, how is this guy using Rakugo to live his life? That's a kind of a shitty way to describe Shoujo. Like this, Rakugo just happens to be the subject, but the drama of this is, it doesn't necessarily have to be about Rakugo. Necessarily, obviously, it is about Rakugo, but anyway. Yeah, I really like this video. It was good. It was a good time. FourStarBento. They've been on doing a lot of stuff, huh? And a lot of different games and trying different things. Great. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be super pessimistic about it. I don't know. Whatever. But catching anime crimes, anime police sketching. It was just like anime crime, because it just triggers me. There's a certain quote, the Anime Encyclopedia. I'm just like, anyway, not that I was expecting that for this or something, but yeah, no, this was cute. So it's Lanny and another person. I don't quite know I don't recognize the other person. And the person who's drawing is their animator guy, or like the guy who was like doing that pilot, I think. He's very talented, very creative, and yeah, very talented. So basically, Lanny and this other guy would come in, and they would be shown a anime character, random, and so it was actually kind of cool because the first character was like one of the bad guys from the Big O, like the big bandaged guy. It's like, oh shit, okay, yeah, it's not just fucking, yeah, it's not fucking Luffy or whatever. Even though it's so that was a great cut. That was a good one to start, and then it was Konata from Lucky Star. Oh, Char Aznable was one of them. Squid Girl was one of them. And like Sanji's wanted poster, but he just drew Sanji because yeah. He kind of, and there was a nice point where I'm so sorry I don't remember their name, but the person drawing was like, I know who they're talking about, but I can't draw it because they didn't describe it. That was a cool. I'm happy that they were actually kind of setting an expectation. One editing video craft related thing that I thought could have improved the video is either you don't show the character at all, and the audience has to kind of guess along with the drawer to kind of understand what character that they're talking about. Obviously, it created a lot of comedy when the guy other than Lanny, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, he's trying to describe Konata and he's doing a horrible job. Like that was fun, and I think the editing did a lot of playful things with the bullet points. That was really good. I thought though that like if you either, because another dynamic about this that made this fun and interesting was that they were only shown the character once. They were shown the character and then it was taken away from them. And so they have to kind of just describe it from memory. And that led to some interesting loss of detail where they were like, they could, like Lanny for the first one, he was able to describe it really, really well, but then he forgot about the neck brace. That's not a huge deal or whatever. But that was an interesting that he didn't, because he's just trying to picture it in his mind's eye. He doesn't have the reference right in front of him. So I think if you had it where but the thing was is that the audience could see the character, and so they were able to see that discrepancy. Um, but I just feel like maybe if you place the viewer more in one or the other's shoes, one of the people interacting in the video, you either are in the same position as the drawer or the person who's like making the sketch, as to be like, what character are they talking about? Or you're the person who was like sitting there and you got the sketch in it, you got the character initially like they did, but then you don't see them, and you can still have all the bullet points and stuff like that. I think those are fun, but I think it would be really interesting if like there might be a discrepancy where it's like, oh yeah, that is what they look like, or it's like, that's how you describe. Was the hair really like that? I felt like the having the character on screen most of the whole time kind of left it deflated the intrigue, or so. I don't know. I feel like I feel like it could have been more compelling, potentially, if you had it one of the, in that way. But otherwise, I like the concept. I actually thought it was really fun. I especially like, again, I thought the variety of characters was refreshing for the most part. Heck, you could do this for characters that aren't even that recognizable. I think it was it was nice that the person interrogating was like had the restraint with like Shar Aznable not to just draw the whole helmet as it normally is, right? But this actually gives opportunity to choose very obscure characters, like tertiary characters in One Piece, or again, characters from anime that none of these guys would be familiar with. Not even the people who were given the thing have ever seen this character before, and so they have to describe him like that. I just think that would be interesting. Obviously, there's some attachment of like, some fandom of just like, oh, look, it's Squid Girl, or oh, it's Kanata from Lucky Star, haha, whatever. But I don't know. I just felt like the actual this allowed it, because if you just give them Goku, that's kind of boring, right? So I was happy with the variety, with the particular choices they gave here, because they were kind of obscure, and I think they can improve it. They could go even more obscure, I think. And they can kind of speculate of like, not that whatever, but like kind of speculate on what this character did or so. And actually, like, it would be, obviously it was a fun dichotomy of like, some of them were bad guys like the Big O and Mobile Suit Gundam, but then like, it was like Konata and Squid Girl, and it's like, oh, they did some crime or whatever. Maybe if it was just bad guys, and then maybe the crime was just like, I think they did some war crime, that maybe it would get to a content age appropriate, whatever. I could probably understand that. But maybe that would complement more of like what they're doing, and not just the kind of the second guy, all he could come up with was for a crime of like, what crime was committed by this character was they took my ice cream cone. Yeah. I'm like, that's cute in the first one, but then he kind of just used the same one every time. That's okay. I think the execution in that regard, in terms of the description, and I liked that it was like Lanny was a little more competent and the other guy was just not as good at it. That gave some interesting tension. I do like that. But the improv, there's clearly a difference in the improvisation, where Lanny is really on top of like, oh, they did this to me, or like he's making up a story. That was really fun. So maybe a little more on that capacity. But the actual like difficulty of describing something or not being good at it is fun. So yeah, anyway, that's my feedback for that. I really like it though. I think she should continue doing it for sure. And when I thought were the best videos of the week, the one I thought were the best videos of the week, one of the best videos of the week, one of the best. I'm sorry, I'm playing with. I guess I know. I also edit these videos up. Yeah, inakyu. Why is everyone obsessed with Gojo having the? You know what? It's very tasteful to do like the Wojak, like, but it's closed mouth. Like, that's nice. That's a thumbnail that I'll click. I was like, yeah, that's it's a meme, but I'll also, yeah. And it's bold too that you don't even put Gojo on the thumbnail. That's the other thing. It's like, wow, is it good? Because it's it's JJK, like, JJK video, right? But they're pretty Okay, I'll take that. I don't know your analytics. I don't get that's just not my business. But like the video a lot. I really like this format. I really like putting. I think you mentioned, or like you had mentioned it to me when we were discussing my woes about trying to do things. And I don't know if you had like if you were working on that video at that time or whatever. But like yeah, I like the projector and the angle and everything and the dynamic where sometimes you're kind of looking back and like, you see this or whatever. But I will say, in terms of the editing structure, I'm just on my fucking game today with like commenting on video editing things. I'm just like, not that I'm a fucking expert or anything. Anyway, I thought I didn't think that the showing the PowerPoint, uh, like cutting away from your filming and putting it like this, like giving the actual PowerPoint with like the full resolution, it wasn't really necessary because you barely put any text and images on it, and that's fine. Like it was completely functional. It was like totally exactly what you needed because most of your presentation, I think the best PowerPoint presentations, the PowerPoint is not the only thing you look at. It's the person you need to listen and pay attention to the person giving the presentation. It can't otherwise. Why does the person have to be there? Just give them the actual PowerPoint. Don't put everything on there. So I liked how minimalist the PowerPoint was, and because it was minimalist, I didn't think you ever needed to actually show us the full unfilmed like the raw PowerPoint and having that cutting. Maybe it was for visual variety. Maybe it was to kind of it wasn't the same static shot the whole time, but I don't know. There's other plenty of YouTubers that kind of get away with not and you can obviously like do that thing that they're doing with this sort of with like they cut a little forward in and they to a sentence or something, making it a little more, giving it a little visual variety. And obviously, you could always cut away to the full anime footage or whatever, but maybe you're avoiding that for content ID, I guess. Okay, that's fair. But like, yeah, I thought this presentation was incredibly original, creative, engaging, fun, and I like the subject matter really. Although I was not let down, I guess, but I just like it was like so reminiscent of this idea of like why are we all fixated on this particular character of like, and kind of a my MC, best boy, best girl. It's all like my waifu and everything. That's all a fixation on your favorite characters on something of a particular thing. Like my favorite character of Naruto is Hinata Hyuga, and my that in that first Naruto video, that 40-minute section, it's not simply kind of like it's not just a simple Hinata analysis. It's more of like the start of it is more of a rumination on this concept of best of our favorite characters and making them our profile pictures or obsessing over them and thinking about them outside the context of the show and the dynamics of that. And I'm not expecting that kind of full. It's not really like where I go to your channel for. I really come for it for the perspective, for the humor, for the kind of laid backness of it. It doesn't the analysis when it's what the kind that I do that I was talking about. It doesn't feel as compatible in a style where you're sitting on. I think it's your bed, and the PowerPoint's right. Like this felt really like welcoming and engaging and casual and fun in its own, and it doesn't need to have that like get to the bottom of it or something. But it just made me think about of my own analysis in that way. But yeah, I thought that like yeah, ultimately I feel like you could have just had the it was clear enough. I thought it was really clear enough, especially again for how minimalist the PowerPoint itself was. I thought it was just all right there, and it worked really well. And you could have just kind of kept it the whole time on you and on the full camera and everything. That's just my feedback on this style of video, but I think you could do more of these. I think there's a lot more to do with that for sure. I think there's a lot of untapped opportunity there. Obviously, it's whatever the rest of your audience thinks about too, but and the reception, yeah, is what is or and how easy of a turnaround is it for you? Of like, did you enjoy making it or anything like that? But yeah, I would say I think it'd be my two thoughts on that in terms of the video editing part. just keep it the shot there. Maybe do occasional crash zooms, um, but otherwise, I can see the PowerPoint pretty well. Unless you, obviously, it's when you if you if the PowerPoint wants to have something a little more detailed, then you could probably show the full thing. But in this particular instance, I think you never really needed to. But yeah, then my 2, 3, 4, 5 cents. Mudan was finally on Trash Taste. Yay! And this is the first time in a while I'm discussing a full Trash Taste episode. Um, but I really liked that. Despite sometimes, I think there was like occasional moments where the three of Joey, Garnt, and Connor have developed such a dynamic with each other, and the three of them in terms of bouncing ideas, riffing on each other, clashing, and everything. They spar so well and they bounce off each other so well that sometimes a guest, if they're not as talkative or not as willing to jump in there or something like that, it can be easy to just kind of get absorbed in it, especially with Mudan, where like he's listening to them so like they joke about the it has this like parasocial, yeah, parasocial relationship almost, even though they talk with each other like a lot and meet each other IRL and everything. Like they are friends, but it's like and coworkers. But he still has to like I know so much about you because he listens to these so often, and every single one of them kind of deal. So that was really funny. But I like that. I think because of that, there was portions of this podcast that did when it wasn't about squarely about Mudan or whatever. It was very easy for him to kind of to dissolve almost. But in response to that, I really appreciated and liked that they seem to kind of acknowledge that, and they've had a lot of guests on the show over the years. I can say over the years now. Isn't that crazy? Wow. um and like they've had a lot of guests and they're really good. I think especially Garnt at engaging directly with the guest, having a lot of interesting questions. Not even just like, it feels like a lot of them can be like boring or standard, but I think it is. They all feel very relevant and interesting, and he sounds interested in them. He's not just kind of lobbing questions for the sake of generating conversation as much as it is like he does sound like he's interested. Especially, I think it was made the most sense for Garnt to be asking most of the questions in this instance because he's the only one that doesn't directly work with Mudan the same way that Joey and Connor do. So I thought that was really a great dynamic that they had here, where they each had different levels of relationship with Mudan. And yeah, I think Mudan ended up just being a fantastic guest, not only having great chemistry. It makes sense because he works with them and everything, and insight and humor. But especially like I love that he brought stuff. He actually brought like energy drinks, and then he brought like these like things of sake. And dude, it was absolutely you absolutely planned that. Like it was a real stunt of like I'm gonna shot this, and they're gonna freak. I definitely think that wasn't just like oh, I don't know. That was absolutely. I know it was planned, bro. I know that was like, oh, this would be great. You're just like, I love that. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, I just really enjoyed this whole thing, and it's also just like hearing more from you because I know I haven't tuned in for much of your streams, and we don't talk as much as whatever, is what it is. But it sounds like you're doing really really well, and it's just nice. It's just really nice. Hearing from you and this conversation and just talking about the video making process and your thoughts and yeah, like all the things that Garnt was asking about your productivity and questions about burnout and things like that. I thought were really great discussions. Yeah, I just really really liked it. Yeah, oh, it was wonderful, just lovely. Oh, and I wanted to. There was one moment, the 2 hour podcast. Plenty of moments I could comment on, but I do remember when they were talking about your own channel and your own videos that you would make, and you talked about how you eventually burnt out and realized and kind of like, oh, look, like a lot of anime is the same, and there's only when you're doing review style videos, there's only so much you can say. It's like I don't have anything left to say about this stuff really. Um, totally fair. But I think it just obviously kind of putting in my perspective, like my reflection on that, because you know what other group kind of had ran into that. Actually, it's stacked a bunch of shit on it right now. But Anime Encyclopedia, which I am gonna be working on. It's my next main video, and it's just a reflection of just like, yeah, it is sort of finding the avenues, not getting marred in the stuff that all looks the same. Because you're right. I think it's easy to be kind of over different aspects of anime. I'm over seasonals for sure. Like I'm seeing all this like kind of the new stuff that comes out, even Freyren. Like I see Freyren so much, and I'm just like I could not give a shit. It's like it's like, is it done? Like is it a manga? Like there's reasons, and I'm not like in cynical of like, oh, it's gonna be boring or bad or whatever. It's more of just a numbness, and it's just like I know I don't have interest. But maybe I will when it's like done. Because the other, I think even Chibi mentioned this, where it's like, wow, it's great that Freyren has a 4 episode premiere and it's gonna be an unbroken 2 core. That's really cool. Hey, what happened to Psalm 100? Wait a minute. We're like the title was just like Freyren's great, but remember Psalm 100 or something like that, where it's like, yeah, this all sounds great. Let's see it first. Let's have it execute first. Go for it. Like let's see how it ends up. And once it's a complete package, it's like that hype with like Wonder Egg Priority or something, right? When the first episode, every week, it was like a really really big deal. You just see that freaking thing crash at the end, like, oh, and I still want to watch it. I'm still interested, but like there's that, or even Witch from Mercury, I think, had a similar fall off actually, because a lot of fans are used to Gundam series that are much longer, that have a lot more going on, that are a lot more complex, and there's a lot of potential with Witch from Mercury. And so they had that first core, and I think a lot of people were kind of anticipating that this would be maybe as long as Iron Blooded Orphans, it'd be more of a four season type of 4 core or 3 core or something. Most people were like, I'd like it to be 3 core. I'm hoping it's 3 core. And then like the disappointment of no, it's going to wrap up at the end of the second core, and a lot of things were wrapped up very quickly, and it's like, oh, that's the extent. People, it seems to the vibe to me feels like they were burnt. I know, I'm sorry, this is not really do with trash days really, but but the vibe to me seems that like that was a disappointment. So like for me, it's like there's a lot of that with seasonal anime. So I understand being burnt out, and I'm like, I'm not chastised or like critic. Like you're still in it, and we're still in this game or whatever. It's not like you've like completely detached interest, or is like you hate anime or something. But I also really liked your observation about like what are the worst types of videos to edit. It was like our anime videos, because of, yeah, and I know what you mean, because like I edit videos for council or for other things, and I'm just given the raw footage and just asked to trim it and to like present it as a nice video, and it's not like you're creating something out of the ether. With anime videos, you're always talking very specific, but for me it's the worst when you're not being specific, because then it's like, okay, what kind of clip do I put here that I actually want it to be kind of relevant and engaging, and not just the OP or some fucking whatever B-roll footage. I actually do want it to look nice. It is a really big challenge to make anime videos for sure. I just like that observation a lot. But then yeah, just your ruminations of not making these kinds of videos anymore. I don't really mind, because it's like, not that it was my business. I don't need to mind whether it's not my fucking like I give you permission. Like, not the fuck. No, it's more like I'm cool with it, because not that I need to be cool with it. I'm not disappointed, because I know you're still creating things. I know you're still being inventive and experimental and working really hard. And it's so interesting when I'm just thinking about like longtime friends or people I've known for years now. To me, it's like whatever they're doing, if they're doing well and they like what they're doing, or they're working hard and they're engaged. They're not like married or but like they're plugged into something that is occupying their time, and it's not just like it's a job. It doesn't, or like they don't have a job, or they're kind of suffering or something. And I'm sorry for those who are in that spot. And there's ebbs and flows like that. But I think it's like you can't really be disappointed in someone for not doing the thing that you want them to do, so long as they are being satisfied and challenged and happy, you know. So I mean, yeah, I don't know if you go farewell or something. You're still around, right? And I'll still cover you if you ever talk about something like that. Or I've talked about some of your Twitch stream challenges because I found them really fun and engaging. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've hardly ever talked about your stuff lately, so I just wanted to use this as an opportunity, I guess. Love what you're doing, and love this podcast. Yeah, it was a great time. Hope you're enjoying Japan. I'm covering another video from TrentinArt, the greatest moment in manga. Yeah, this is nice. And it's especially poignant for me because this is actually a moment I'm familiar with. I would watch. I don't have Yu-Gi-Oh listed as complete on Kitsu or anything because I watched it on television kind of sporadically. I don't know if I've watched every episode really. But I remember this moment, of course, with Battle City and the anchor, his duel with Joey. And I like that, like, the way that this video is paced and structured, where you're kind of recounting it and describing certain moments. And there was something Pavlovian that was just like, that's the greatest moment. And I was waiting for that. But then you keep going. I'm like, I guess that wasn't the greatest moment. And then is this the greatest moment? And then when you finally, and it is what's on the thumbnail, that like it closed a unclosed loop, or like a synapse. And it was just a really great moment. I just think it was really, really satisfying. I love how you talk about Yu-Gi-Oh with so much respect and reverence, and not even just for the fact that it's means a lot to you or anything like that, but even just that, like, you're taking it seriously. You're acknowledging knowing the characters, and not just kind of like, hey, it's Yu-Gi-Oh, time to duel. Yeah, like, it's and it's also part of that, and not like you delve in this video, but I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh, there's something about, like, with the author having passed away recently as a hero, trying to rescue somebody. Really tragic and hard to hear that, but like, I think it's created a newfound respect and reverence for this series, which it badly deserved. It was so, if anything, it's kind of like how people deride 4Kids. People kind of deride 4Kids for their treatment of One Piece, and how it kind of created a stunting of that reach in the United States. It didn't take off the same way perceptively as the other Shonen Jump series at that time. And probably maybe a similar thing could have been said maybe for Shaman King, or Ultimate Muscle with Kinnikuman, and with Yu-Gi-Oh. And I think the only reason Pokemon is kind of excused from that was just that it was way more. And Yu-Gi-Oh probably as well, actually. I think Yu-Gi-Oh also kind of got saved in terms of the public consciousness. It doesn't feel stunted like these other shows might have felt with 4Kids treatment. And I don't want to be cliche about 4Kids treatment or whatever. And again, I'm sorry that I'm bringing this up, and it's not really relevant to your video, but like, I'm just thinking in general about like people's reception to Yu-Gi-Oh. It feels like there's, and I like that you bring up you do this again. You bring up another channel in their video on Yu-Gi-Oh as well. But I'm just feeling the sentiment lately that like, it really means something, and it feels very special, and it's not simply like children's card game, but even though 4Kids does kind of proliferate that, because we didn't just have the show. I was into Yu-Gi-Oh is the first card game I played in elementary school, like, besides regular playing cards, right? There's Magic, there's Pokemon. Like, I played Magic in 5th grade. I never ended up getting into Pokemon, the card game, but I got into Yu-Gi-Oh. Seeing those cards, like the detail on them, and the excitement and what they all look like, and how the playing it of everything. and the show, actually being able to see them playing it and everything, and regardless of like the kind of the capitalism, marketing, whatever, but even just, I just yeah, I don't know. There is something like it feels that Yu-Gi-Oh is getting this much deserved reverence of like, no, this is actually fantastic, and like because even in this particular battle, it's kind of a cliche of the best friend getting mind controlled, and he has his body kind of lose control of his body and everything. And what was the fucking thing I watched recently that had that? Oh, Kaito John, Kamikaze Kaito John, his Magical Girl series, and I'm not gonna give too many details, but like towards the end, there is that trope of best friend being possessed by some demon or something, and trying to finagle and negotiate through how do you deal with that, um and it was just real. And I ultimately, like, with I bring that up because Kaito John, I don't feel like it handled it very well, and I'm just kind of realizing I don't know if I 100% like that trope. And not to be like all tropey brain or anything, like all every use of it is bad, I never like it when they do time travel, like nothing like that. But it's like I'm starting to feel that way. But this is just a phenomenal example of like how effective it can be, where it's a and I liked how you described it of like diluting their friendship and tarnishing it and getting in the way of it almost, because they had this promise, and there's a promise with Yugi in chapter 1 and everything. Like, lovely stuff. Really liked all the things you're saying in the messages and stuff, and you getting personal. Although one note that I would give here, I didn't think that the choice of visuals when you were describing your personal attachment with your experience with friendship and being a little more introspective, I was actually kind of more arrested by the visuals, being distracted, because I remembered that arc, and I was like, but how does it really go? How did it go? But you were able to play it, and I was actually more drawn to what you were showing on screen that was not having to do with what you were talking about, so I wasn't paying attention. So I felt like that was a discrepancy, where I was just like, I just happened to be more enamored with what was going on visually, which is just a fast forwarding and a filter over the actual show, just kind of sped up footage of the episode and just kind of watching what happens with Kaiba rescuing Joey's sister and yada yada yada. But it wasn't really having to do with what you were talking about. I don't know what visuals you do show. I don't know if it's a still or something more IRL. I don't really know how to. I get that's difficult. I wasn't sure if this was the right call, is all I'm saying. And that's what I would give, if any feedback, is that I don't think that moment worked. Not because of your narration. It did sound very. I like that personal stuff. And of course the message you're talking about is really impactful. It was just the dike. Maybe I'm just a dum dum. A skill issue. Sure. Okay. Yeah, that was just I think I was thinking about really with the craft here. And the I get that the filter was a way of with the manga thing in the back is a way to skirt content ID, and it mostly works, but I felt a lot of it ended up sometimes it created some garish visuals, but it's what it is. I know what you mean. I know what you were trying to do. Yeah, I really liked it though. Yeah, it was lovely, really wonderful. Very happy to see that. And I'm gonna give a best video of the week to a part 1 from SpaceHunterM. I really like that it's just called Warriors of the Wind video. Even in like the video itself, like the title card of the video, it's just SpaceHunterM's Warrior of the Wind video, and then this is just a part 1. And I love really it's in the best category for me because of the way that she talks about the treatment that this production has gotten online. Complete callousness, dismissal, throw it in the trash, don't even give a shit. Miyazaki does it, disowns it. Please ignore it. It's a footnote. You don't have to watch it. It's cringe all the way through. It's a bad movie, right? I love that this is taking a step back and like, no, can we talk about it, please? In like a constructive way. And it was very biographical in this first half of just showing all the evidence on screen very routinely, and I was gonna get lost in the narration almost. It really was just it didn't it felt very Wikipedia-esque. It's just very like I had to just go through all of it, but it was necessary. It was so necessary. And I think the presentation was just so deliberate and vital and respectful. You know, I really like it. Felt like you were setting the record straight, and you weren't trying to make a defense of of Warriors of the Wind at all. In fact, it was when you were getting into the differences, and she's talking about the one scene that's cut. I like that you gave the I this is my favorite scene, and they cut it. And it's like, I don't get it. And there's a lot of like, I like that there was a lot of transparency where you're doing your best to give reasons why names were changed. Going at finding the glossary and certain sources like that. This is going to be so valuable for me with terminology and translation and the adaptation of this story into English. I think this will be really useful for me when I have a planned video, a streaming project, probably next year, or in January or December, I don't know, where I want to take the Nausicaa movie and go line by line and decide whether the dub is better than the sub. And that age old question of if the dub is better than the sub, but quantitatively proving it by going line by line and judging performance and translation. And I do want to include Warriors of the Wind. I don't think it can really count as a major competitor, not because it's bad which I really like that it isn't just, again, your treatment of this is just so wonderful. I love it. Not that I have any nostalgic attachment for Warriors of the Wind. However, second time I'm cut to showing something, I was gifted the VHS. I was like, yeah, this is like the New World Video major VHS. And I have watched Warriors of the Wind. Somebody did cut the HD version and they synced it to the Warriors of the Wind audio, but it's in HD. It's not like in the 4 by the way. It isn't just that they cut. I could be wrong about this. Now, I like that we're taking this more seriously. I'm pretty sure it wasn't simply that they obviously changed everything or they cut out 20 minutes. They didn't just cut 20 minutes. I'm pretty sure they cut the sides of the screen too, right? Like I think you can even see in the screenshots here. That's in 4 by 3. I think they literally cut the frame too, like to make it fit most televisions, because this was, although that doesn't make any sense. That's probably not even true. Actually, no, it probably is true because, well, I love that you went through the actual theatrical history, the theatrical run, finding people's reviews of it, and actually taught that, like, showing early reviews of it that they were actually pretty positive and pretty favorable. Because surprise, surprise, yeah, it is Nausicaa. They just cut 20 minutes. It is a worse version. It is a worse version of Nausicaa, but it's not fucking unwatchable garbage. It's not. I've watched it. It's kind of fun. It's especially if you were already a fan of it and you're not like, oh yeah, like don't take it so seriously, right? I don't know, not to put words in Space Hunter's mouth or anything, but yeah, I just really like the approach and the handling of this topic, and I'm really looking forward to part 2. I'm curious of like why you had to split it into multiple videos, because it's only 37 minutes, and maybe you wanted to release something at that time and work on it in piecemeal and stuff like that. That could have been fair too. I would have liked one big video, to be honest with you. That'd be my only complaint, really. Oh, actually, one other thing I would have said, I would say, I think the use of I know you're having trouble with copyright strikes. I saw the community note because I subscribed. I did see the community note that there's that you're having copyright issues, and that's understandable, or strikes. So I'm hoping that does okay. I will say that another thing about your channel, the first time I'm talking about it, about Space Hunter, she's done a lot. She's had a lot of videos over the years. It's got a couple of viral, some Scooby-Doo related things. But also just like I scrolled through like all of her uploads, and it's incredible. Like, she's been doing this for so long. And I wasn't sure because I wanted to check if you've done any other video essays besides this before this, and I don't think I could find any. I also tried the playlist tab, try to see if they have like a tab for video essays, and I don't necessarily think you did. But if it is if it is your first, I don't know if it is. You've been uploading for a long time. If it is your first, this is phenomenal. I think you did a very, very good job. With just the pacing and editing and the voice performances and everything like that. As a video essay, I think this was really great. But the one note that I would have, I like the idea of kind of skirting copyright by just having this mostly in, like, it's 16:9, but it's 4:3, where you're showing stuff on screen, and then most of the Nausicaa footage, though not all of it, it felt kind of sporadic and random when you would use the HD footage versus when you would use the 4:3. I think the 4:3 makes sense to it's like the 4:3, but it's widescreen, so it's like this, but then it is still showing the full picture. There was moments where when you're talking about what was cut, you would just kind of do a black screen, which makes sense. How can you show what wasn't shown? I think what you could have potentially done is use that 4:3, the old footage that you had. I think you use some of the old footage that's in actual 4:3. If you use that to represent Warriors of the Wind, and every time you're talking about Warriors of the Wind, it is in that. Because I do remember there's other moments where you use the HD footage and use Warriors of the Wind audio. But if you were referring to the original uncut and use the HD footage, and then every time you're talking about Warriors of the Wind, it's just exclusively the VHS older standard definition footage, the way it's kind of currently technically trapped as, because it's never been officially released in HD, right? So maybe that visual distinction, or at the very least have like a subtitle where it's like Warriors of the Wind. You're looking at, obviously there's no visual differences beyond some title cards and some small changes like that, which were really interesting. But some way to visually distinctive of, okay, when are you talking about the original, or are you talking about Warriors of the Wind? I also, as much as I prefer the Disney dub, in general, like even before to the Japanese sub, as much as I prefer that one, I like that you didn't really get caught in the mix at all. You didn't even bring it up. You just Japanese and Warriors of the Wind, because that was the only thing that existed by the time Warriors of the Wind had come out. It's really kind of unfair to give that other comparison. So I like that you kind of left it on the table and didn't even mention it, really. I really appreciated that. Yeah, this was just like really smart. I'm really looking forward to part 2. I feel like this is very invaluable in terms of the sources that you looked into this with, and the knowledge and everything, the insight, and of course the respect and like nuance to this topic is gonna be very useful when I hopefully make this my own kind of similar Nausicaa video, which incorporates Warriors of the Wind, hopefully with the same amount of respect that you give it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Very, 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 very good job. Yeah, that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yeah, peace.